everyone. Welcome back to Global Transformation. Why now is the best time to activate your inner brilliance. Lisa's back with you again, and Melissa. Hey, Melissa.
Hey there. Welcome back to day 2, everybody. So happy that you're here. Let's jump right in and get started. First thing we want to do is review what we talked about in day 1, which is why now is the time, if you remember that. So remember, Lisa, we were talking about what is your inner brilliance?
It's that thing you do just like breathing that you're not even aware that you're really good at it, that it comes naturally to you.
Yep. And this is one of those things we didn't really, I don't think we mentioned this yesterday, so let's mention it now. Remember I was saying it's like that sticky note that's on your head that you can't read? So ask someone else to read it for you. You can ask your family, your friends, other people you work with, what do you think my inner brilliance is? What do you think is that thing that comes so naturally to me that I'm so good at? Feel free to ask other people and they will point it out to you. Like I said, when I started channeling, people were like, duh, we knew you were good at that. And I'm like, well, I didn't.
Yeah, and you know, that's the thing. You don't realize it because it is who you are. So it's nothing special to you. And that's why you kind of don't always see it.
Yep, that's the truth. It's what calls you forward and asks you to expand and grow. Remember we were talking about
Lord, it does.
Leaving your comfort zone and expanding yourself. It's like a calling. Like a lot of people have a calling. Like some people have callings to be doctors or to be in the military. It's something that calls you, if you know what that means.
Yep. And it speaks to you through that teeny tiny little voice that is your inner knowing. And just a quick aside, the reason that voice is so quiet is free will, so that you can act on it, right? Because if it jumped in front of your face and said, pay attention to me, you must do this thing, you're going to be like, okay, right? And so that kind of negates that free will piece. So it's very quiet, just like your intuition is very quiet, so that you can say, yeah, I think I'll jump into that.
Yep. And you can express it in many different ways, including but not limited to how you create income. It doesn't have to be your work. We talk about this kind of at length in the other video. It doesn't have to be what you can do. It can be your hobby or something you really like to do, which kind of leads us into the next point, which was the workbook that they had. So what did you discover in that workbook? Lisa, tell us a little bit about the workbook and what that was meant to help people pull out. If you haven't done it, it'd be a really good thing to do. It's just a few questions, right?
Yeah, it is. The cool thing about this is that the first part of it, where you have certain questions, is kind of like a big head dump. You know, just like off the top of your head, what do you get? And I want to encourage you, if you have not done it, go with whatever shows up in your head. Whatever, when you hear the question, like if you had to mentor someone in something, what would you teach them? Don't sit there and analyze it, just like whatever comes to your mind, pop it out. So you do a big head dump, right? So you've got a bunch of information, a general bunch of information. And then the second part of the workbook helps you sift it down into like, what patterns did you notice? Or, you know, there are a whole bunch of different questions in that second part. There's really just 3. So it helps you take it from here down to here. And especially with the patterns, when you start looking at the patterns that show up in your life and in the things that you like to do, you are going to see the threads connect in a way that you might not have noticed before. I came out of my mother talking, I'm sure. My nickname as a child was Motor Mouth. And so communication showed up very quickly for me. And I always loved to write and speak and do whatever. So that's a thread that was really obvious to me. But then there were other threads that people would say, you know, to me, like, did you notice that you do this thing? Or did you notice that you're really good at this? And I didn't notice that because it's part of who I am, right? And it didn't loom large in front of me. So you're going to start seeing those little threads that make up the bigger picture. So the workbook is really just to give you an idea and help you sift through those pieces.
Yep. And something very important to know that Lisa had mentioned, there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. So far we've talked about knowing the path, getting an idea of what your inner brilliance is. And going on through this workshop and even beyond that, we're going to talk more about being able to walk the path and how you're going to take that into your life.
That's right.
So if you haven't done the workbook, go ahead and do it. But today, what we're going to specifically talk about is what stops people from activating their inner brilliance and following their purpose. What is it that stops people, and why don't most people do that? We talked about that a little bit yesterday with that quote that you mentioned from Danielle Agnew. Because
it'll change their whole life.
Yeah.
But beyond that, one of the things that seems to stop people, and this is from talking with my clients, is the fear of being judged. That is huge. Yes. Yep. Judgment is the biggest one of all. And I faced it, and Melissa's faced it. And I would even say a lot of people that you know have faced that fear before. And
yep.
The thing is, we're going to talk about this with Brene. The thing is that if you can get past that, if you can just allow it to flow through you and not let it attach to who you are, then it sort of quiets down and goes off into the distance. So let me mention, Brene Brown talked about, if you recall, she had that very first TED Talk that took the world by storm. That's where she kind of came out. And she said that she didn't realize it was going to go viral, because who does? Nobody realizes those things. And so she kind of wore like what she normally wears, and she didn't get all dolled up, and she looks kind of dolled up in this picture. But in the very first TED Talk she did, she was wearing like a jeans jacket and a skirt and clunky shoes or something. Anyway, she did it and it went viral. And she got enormous judgment about her appearance. Not what she said. She's a researcher and a teacher, and so she's used to the world of academia, where they judge the content and not so much how that content is presented. So it was really her first entry into being judged for her appearance. And it took her down. She talked about how she was almost on the floor of her living room because she was getting phone calls. She was getting emails from people saying, "Why didn't you dress better? You look like that. You're so fat."
Yep.
Like,
yep.
What?
She got slammed, yeah.
She got hardcore slammed. And that's when that poem picked her back up. The one that says, it's not the one, what is it? Oh gosh, it's that one by the president. It's not the one in the ring. Oh, Jesus. I wish I could remember it.
Oh, yeah, I know
what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that she said, and I watched the Netflix special, it's really good. I recommend it if you have Netflix, is that she said, if you haven't stepped foot into the arena,
that's it, yeah.
And you haven't dared to step out in front of people, to step out in the fight, I don't care what you have to say about me or your opinion. Your opinion doesn't matter, because you can't sit on the sidelines and pick on people all day if you don't step your butt in that arena.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know the exact quote, but that really hit me.
It's a quote by Teddy Roosevelt, and she said that's what helped her get off the floor, right? Yeah. It's the one in the arena with the sweat and the blood and the whatever who's doing the work. And I always think of that when I'm sitting on my couch and I see somebody jog by, and I see them, like there's this one woman that jogs like this, and I think, you're not doing that right. And I thought, Lisa, your butt's on the couch. She's out there running. Who the hell are you? Right? I'm so introspective. But judgment comes no matter what you do, whether you're running in this direction or you're out on a stage. And here's the thing, and you know this, and I know this, and I'm just going to say it is not even about you. It is about the person doing the judging and their own junk, whatever their junk is. So now I don't know what junk would compel you to call someone and tell them how bad they looked on stage. Right. I have no idea what kind of junk that is, but people have it because they do it all the time. All the time.
Yep. And we're afraid of it. We're afraid of it.
Yeah.
We're afraid of what people are going to say. Oh, well, you shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have done that. That's not a good idea, all the time. And we stop ourselves. We stop ourselves cold in our tracks because we're afraid that other people might say something bad or that hurts our feelings. And it's probably going to happen. especially if you do things like Lisa and I have done and come out as channels.
Mhm.
You know, there's a lot of people out there that do not believe in channels or people who can talk to anything other than,
Oh, and they're mean. They are mean as hell.
yeah, they're
Hmm.
going to be there.
Yep.
So it's important to know that that's something that stops people, not to let it stop you. We're actually going to talk more about ways to get over all of this and get
Hmm.
through it to the next step. But this brings us to actually the next point, which is other people's expectations. So not only do they judge you, they expect you to do certain things. And I have a story about that years ago. And I'm not going to go deeply into the story, but years ago I was in college with the perfect plan to go into the Air Force and get a computer science degree and have the perfect job and the perfect life. And I absolutely hated it. And I was going crazy. And I was looking for the highest building to jump off of to get out of it. To be honest with you, to really be honest with you, I was like, I cannot go through with this. I decided not to go through with it. I stopped going to college. I quit college, even though my dad was like, you really just need to finish your degree. Just finish your degree. And I'm like, no, I really, if I do that and if I follow that path, I will go down a path I don't want to be down. And knowing that, and knowing that other people's expectations are not your own, can lead you to one of the best times of your life, which was, for me, becoming a professional jockey, which was a dream that I had as a child that I had absolutely forgotten about. But being able to step away from other people's expectations, even my own wrong expectations of myself, because part of it was me. Part of it, you know, you get out of high school and you think, what am I going to do to make a living? And what am I going to do? I have to do this and I have to do that. And you may be trapped in something right now that you don't want to do, or you may be thinking about what you want to do and relating that to other people's expectations. Like, well, they think I should do this and maybe I should. It's important to know that and to recognize that and to know when it's not the right thing for you. I think
Yep.
that's very
And
important.
it, you know, it takes a lot of courage. And Melissa, whenever you talk about this, I always, like in my heart, give you props for that, because it takes a lot to
It does.
say, no, I think I'm going to
Yep.
go in this direction, especially when it's someone like a parent or someone that you respect and that it's important to you, right? Their opinion and what they say is important to you, but it doesn't have to be everything to you, right?
Yeah. Yep. It is, especially if it looks like on the surface something you should be doing and that's very good, that makes more money or whatever. No amount of money is going to matter if you're miserable, ever. I don't care what people say. I know for a fact that that's the truth. And when you follow your heart and you follow your own expectations and your own inner brilliance, like we said yesterday, the universe lines up for you and things, you start attracting things. And we'll probably talk about frequencies more at a later date and how the law of attraction and manifesting and all that stuff works together. But when you do follow that, you attract what is right for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do.
Here's another thing. Talking about courage, change is very scary. Lisa, I'm going to let you take this one away. And I put a big scary picture in there.
Sometimes it really feels like that, though, that you get so comfortable in what is and what is around you. And it's like that, you know, like you have a pair of shoes that don't really fit you very well anymore, but they're just worn in and comfortable. It's that. So when you get a new pair of shoes, you have to break them in, and it feels weird and you get a blister, but eventually they come to be comfortable too. So you've heard that saying a million times, right? Change only happens outside your comfort zone. It's true. And that's where the growth is. Growth doesn't happen in that little bubble that you have. Growth doesn't happen there. So if you, like, for me, I feel like it's my life mission to be a better Lisa every single day. Even if that's only a pinch. Am I a better person today than I was yesterday? I above all, growing as a person is like a big deal to me. So if that's how you are, like you know, like grow or die. That's it for me. Grow or die. So if you are somewhere in that continuum, right, then you are compelled to grow, learn your skills, be a better person, blah, blah, blah. Yet that takes you out of that comfort zone, right? And that's the thing. That's where that growth is going to happen. But because of the energies that we talked about, you know, where you're vibing at this energy and then you move up here, this is like, come back down here. You know, your family, you're acting weird. How come you're acting really weird? Mom, can't you just be the way you were? Like all of that makes it really difficult to keep moving things up. And certainly in a family situation, when one person changes, the entire dynamic changes. And here's the thing. You are driving that change, so you know about it, you're thinking about it, you're driving it. They don't know about it. So like one day they come home and everything's weird and they're like, what is going on? They will want it to go back to the way it was, you know? And so those are the things that when you really make a shift, right? When you really do that, that you are going to run into some of those things. But here's the other piece I want to tell you. When that change comes from your inner knowing, okay, when it comes from that, two things. One, you are really solid in that core, right? Like I knew my work was to be Princess Channel. I knew that. And I knew I could do nothing else. I could, but soul-wise, that was what my soul agreed to do. And so there was a piece that like fortified me because I knew this was my work. You could not tell me it wasn't my work. I knew it was. So that core, and that's where that trust comes in that I talk about. That core is what sustains you when you go through some of that change, right? And the second piece is, as I mentioned yesterday, the other piece is that the universe opens up and welcomes you with potential out the wazoo, seriously. And that, I find that fun. I always find it fun to see, like, I'm going to see what the universe has to say about whatever, and doors open, and I get to choose what door to go through. So change is scary. Yes, it's the only way you'll grow. And what if it's a lot of fun and you're missing out on all the fun you could be having?
Yep. And in the next video, we have a lot to talk about. We're going to give you the tools to deal with all of this, with the change and the scary and the judgment and the other people's expectations. So that's just a little primer. But I like what you said, Lisa, about being a better person every day. And I truly do believe you're either expanding or you're contracting.
Right.
We think we can stay comfortable in our little world and just stay right here. That's not going to happen, especially now. And we've been talking specifically about now and this global transformation that's going on. There is no staying in your comfort zone, no matter what. You might think you might try really hard, but things are changing on such a scale that the best thing for you to do is just to step out with it and to embrace the change.
Yeah, and the other piece about that is, if it feels like we are all out of control, like some weird thing floated in and took everything away. Well, working toward your brilliance and working in that space gives you back the only thing you can control, which is you, right? So if you're feeling like, wow, this is a great place to focus that need for control and really like get solid on that. So you can't control what goes on in the outside world, but you can control right here.
Yep. That is so true. That is so true. And what else do we have? Oh, worst case scenario. Okay. So this is one of the things we wanted to talk about that our minds always go to. What is possibly the worst case scenario? Ooh, the scariest thing. That's what our minds go to naturally, right, Lisa? I mean, that's what we think about. Well, suppose everything falls apart and, whatever that worst case scenario is. So what advice do you have for people, Lisa, about that?
I say envision what is the worst thing that could happen to you. Okay, so let's say that your brilliance, your soul brilliance is as a singer-songwriter, but you only ever sing in your bedroom, or you sing in front of your dog, or whatever that is, right? So what if you went out, you took that out, and you started singing in public? Okay, so your worst case scenario would be the entire audience stands up and boos at you. And speaking of my little purple mentor, I'll tell you a very quick story. In 1980, he opened for the Rolling Stones. That was different, but he opened for the Rolling Stones. And people did not like Prince at a Rolling Stones concert, and they threw stuff at him. They threw food and cans and bottles and, you know, broke instruments or whatever, and he completely went out and he ran off. Like, he ran off the stage, and he like was going to get on a plane and fly back. And his band members came back and said, don't let them take us down. So he showed up the next day, opened again, same thing happened. Same thing, right? He got booed, but he didn't get off the stage. And well, you know the rest of the story. He didn't get off the stage, right? So he experienced his worst case scenario, which was an entire stadium of people saying, boo, you suck, throwing stuff at you. And you know what? What did he do? He went on to become one of the most celebrated artists of all time.
All
right?
time. Yeah.
All time. So what is your worst case scenario? And I'm not going to say you're going to get booed everywhere, but imagine that worst case scenario. Imagine what would happen if you went as a singer-songwriter and you went to a bar and you got booed. Okay, it sucks. It really sucks. And you keep moving forward. So to help you envision it, you know, really think of, like, really put yourself in that energy. What would it be like to be booed off stage? You know, what would it be like to really have somebody tell you, like, oh, you have no talent? Do you know how many singer-songwriters have come up against people telling them they have no talent?
Every successful person out there has had failures and things when they started. The most famous, most successful people flopped usually multiple times ahead of time. Yeah. So,
but that inner core, that knowing that is what they're here to do, compels them to show up again and again and again.
Yeah. And knowing your inner brilliance and having faith in it and trusting in it.
Right.
And some of the things that we're going to talk about to get you to help you to work through this. But our brains go to it anyway. Remember, I was saying,
not really dig into it, feel all the feelings, because then it will, like, that dissipates. Once you feel it, then it dissipates.
And sometimes you'll also realize how silly it is. Now, it may happen or it may not happen. My whole thing when I started channeling and putting videos out was that they were going to whoever they is, was going to come to the door and drag me off to the funny farm, whatever that is, you know. But I mean, your mind goes to that. Oh God, people are going to think I'm like, what is that, like psychotic, or what is that when you're schizophrenic, when you hear voices? And, you know, I thought, oh, they're going to think I'm like that, you know, that kind of mentally crazy and carry me off. And that didn't happen, thankfully, but our brain goes to that. And it was kind of silly now that I'm like, well, you know, that probably won't happen because I don't know who they are and who's going to come and get me and where they're going to take me. But you know, our brain does go to that. So be prepared for that, you know, embrace it. Like Lisa says, you know, take a look at it. It may happen, it may not happen, but that inner strength that you have, that knowing, that trust is what's going to carry you through. And that's really very important. A couple other things that I wanted to mention here, some questions to ask yourself. A couple of questions in addition to, I don't know if this was in the workbook or not, but I just wanted to hit the points again. Number one, what are you willing to do? And number two, what are you not willing to do? And that's it. That's very important, because no matter what your inner brilliance is, there may just be some things that you are not willing to do. You know, so you have to find another way around that, or another way to do that. It doesn't have to be, we talked about this, Lisa, your work. It doesn't have to be what you do primarily. It can be your hobby, what you come home to, you know, and what are you willing to do? You have a story, Lisa, about Dr. Wayne Dyer. What's that story?
In the beginning of my woo journey, I listened to Wayne Dyer probably on replay 24/7. And because he laid a lot of my foundations for how I understand things. And one of the things he talked about was with his first book, which I think was Your Erroneous Zones. He believed in it so much. And this was way back in the 70s, I think.
Oh, he had hair.
Yeah.
Hair on that,
right? And so he got a bunch of the books. I guess he bought them or whatever. and loaded them in his station wagon. And he drove across country, NPR station to NPR station, talking to them about his book and getting it out in public and getting it, getting on NPR and being able to talk to people about it. And his wife, and they had like 5 or 6 kids or whatever. And he felt so strongly about this that, and he had said, I remember, because those 2 questions, what are you willing to do and what are you not willing to do, came from him. When he said, in service to your purpose, in service to your vision, what are you willing to do? And then what are you not willing to do? I probably would not be willing to get in my car and drive across country and be a channel for Prince. I don't have to because of the internet, yay. But I might if there was no such thing as that. Right now, that's not compelling me, right?
So but now you can't because of the coronavirus. So
I know, you're right. Yeah, see, that'd be bad. I'm not willing to do that now. Yeah.
Yep.
But that's the question is, what am I willing to do in furtherance of this? So I was willing to tell people, yes, I channel Prince, okay? I was willing to go on prince.org and Lord, it's a big forum, and talk about that. And I got chewed up and spit out. But I'll tell you what, Prince asked me to do it. And I didn't pop on there going, I channel Prince. I was very subtle about it. But Prince asked me to do it. And I was willing to endure the judgment because Prince asked me to do it. And I knew he had a purpose for it. So I trusted that because that's my brilliance. I trusted him to do that. And so what are you willing to do? What are you not willing to do? You might not be willing to come out in public with whatever it is that is your brilliance. Okay, maybe tomorrow the answer will be different, right? And that's a thing that you can ask yourself, are you willing to do that? I had a client one time who was terrified of coming out to people as a intuitive, as a psychic or whatever. And so we were joking about, put out your website and just blah, 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 blah. And so the next day I saw a link on Facebook to her website. And I said to her, what was that about? And she said, I think I drank too much last night and I put it out and I didn't mean to. And now it's out there. And I was like, oh, universe, look how nicely you did this. And then she wasn't afraid anymore because it had been taken care of by the universe, right? Sometimes the universe helps you to do that.
Yep. So these are follow-up questions to that first question we talked about yesterday. What is yours to do? It's something that I ask myself every day when I wake up. What is mine to do today? Or what is mine to do overall? And then to add to that, what are you willing to do and what are you not willing to do? That's important. Like you said, it may change over time. At first you might go, oh gosh, I'm not going to do that. And then as you start to move towards your inner brilliance and your purpose and work through all of that, it will come, which leads us again into the next question. How do you navigate through all that junk that we just talked about? How do you get through the judgment and the expectations and the fears and the things? What do you do? What do you not do? How do you figure out your brilliance? What we are going to do is we are going to help you with that. Let me see if I can change the slide here. First thing to navigate through the junk is support. That's why we are here supporting you. And hopefully that's why you are here looking for the support. The second thing, guidance. Lisa, tell us a little bit about how guidance can help.
Well, it really depends on, let's put it this way. Not everybody has as clear a channel to the divine wisdom as Melissa and I do. We're very good at it. And we know how to bring it down from, the universal law, say blah, 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 to here's what needs to be done today. Here's an option you can do today, right? So guidance from your higher self, right? We can tap into that. We can tap into the general wisdom. That guidance that comes from a place that truly wants you to succeed, right? And there's the thing. It's difficult with friends and family. They want you to succeed, but maybe not too much or not at the expense of shaking up the family or whatever.
Right. And they want you to be safe. So they don't mean to squash your dreams and your hopes sometimes, but they're trying to keep you safe.
Keep you safe. Right.
You shouldn't do that. Yeah.
That's right. So, you know, when you have guidance and you have us, and we are like, we want you to fly. That's the thing that I do really well. It's part of my brilliance. I want people to be the best they can be. And I support that. I am honest about what I see and what I share with people, because I think when one flies, we all fly. And so it's really important to me. And you can get that guidance yourself through your higher self if you know how to do that, and through divine wisdom. But if you don't have that direct channel like we do, lean on us for that kind of guidance and support that comes from that place of, we want you to succeed and be your biggest self.
Yeah. Yeah. We want you to find that inner brilliance. And the third thing that I'd like to mention that is really helpful navigating through all the junk is community. And that's another reason that we're here. We have the Facebook group and, you know, a supportive community. I know personally trying to do this kind of stuff by yourself is difficult. Lisa, I'm sure you know the same thing. You know, you're married, but your husband doesn't understand the woo part of it and the online business part of it and all the stuff that's involved in it. So, you know, the three things that I think are really important: support, guidance, and community. And to go a little further, there's actually a lot more that we're going to be talking about on the next video. And there's some serious learning ahead in the very next video, because we've already talked about what your brilliance is, why now is the best time, and what stops most people, some of the obstacles that you can face following your brilliance. And now in the next video, the next one is going to be the serious learning video, where we're really going to help you to activate your inner brilliance.
And that's the key. And that is that walking the path, right? So far, like Melissa pointed out, we're helping you know the path. Here's the pathway. Here are some ideas. But really, and here's an analogy I want to give you. When you take things from the fourth dimension, up in your head, up in your imagination, they're lovely. But until you do something with them down here in the physical, nothing in your world changes. So you can think about, you know, I want to do this and I want to do that and blah, blah, blah. And then you don't do anything about it. And then nothing changes. Nothing does. So if you are looking to take what you know of your brilliance and really just kind of stretch it a little bit, you're going to have to do something. And we're going to show you what those pieces are to look at and play with, right? So that you have a roadmap, you know, not only to understand all of this theoretically, but then to bring it down into the physical. What are the things you can do in the physical that really will shift that energy for you?
Yep. Taking action. Taking action is the most important thing to do to actually activate your brilliance, to activate the next level for you. You have to do something. You can't sit still and get there. So that's something that we're very passionate about, is helping people take action, not just talking about stuff, but we want to give you what you need to get where you want to be.
Yeah, you might run into a lot of intuitive people who are beautiful, beautiful channels of the energy, but they don't know how to help you bring it down and see your life change. They can give you the vision, but then they're missing that piece. As grounded intuitives and channels, Melissa and I get that importance. So you won't get any airy fairy, oh, your aura is pink and there's love all around you, which is nice. It's nice to have love all around you, but how the hell does that change your life?
Right, exactly.
So not only can we tell you there's love all around you, but we can tell you how to step into that, how to feel that love, how to engage with that love, so your life looks different. So it's really important not to toot our own horns, but we are different than a lot of intuitives and channels that you might have seen. So don't be put off by that part, right? Open up to the fact that we can touch into that wisdom and bring it down for you so that you can see things different in your life. Because why else? Like, what the hell else would you be doing all this if you don't want to see things change?
Yep. Real steps, real action, real results. That's what it's all about. So we will see you on the next video where we're going to get into all that a lot more. And we want to thank you for being here today. And we'll see you in video number 3.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Yep.
Bye, guys.
Bye.